Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the BSG Automotive channel. Today we're going to show you how to properly change the oil in the Ford 3.5 liter EcoBoost engine. Now Ford started using this engine in 2010 in the Taurus Show and Ford Flex, and then in 2011 they moved on to the F-150. In 2016 they put it into the Ford Explorer Platinum and Sport models, and then finally in 2018 they started using it in the Ford Expedition. And of course, this video also applies to the Lincoln counterparts like the MKT, MKS, and the Navigator, okay? So procedure is pretty darn simple, but there's a lot of tips and tricks I can give you, so you make sure you do it and do it right, okay? So first things first, few basics here. You want to make sure you have a basic oil filter wrench, nothing fancy here. 15 mil wrench or socket and ratchet. And then for all the models in years 2010 on, you want to use the Motorcraft FL500S. It's a really good filter. It's really strong. Lots of pleats inside of there, silicone valve, and it's really cheap, okay? Now the oil is critical here. You want to use, the capacity is around 6 quarts, maybe a little bit over, but you want to use a really high quality semi-synthetic or full synthetic oil. It's very, very important. And the most important aspect of this is you want to use an oil that adheres to the API SN Plus spec. Now, not all oils out there right now adhere to this spec, so you need to look at the back of the bottle and make sure right here on the API symbol that it says SN Plus. Now, what's SN Plus and why is it important? Well, these engines are turbocharged. They're twin turbocharged engines, and these newer compact turbocharged engines nowadays are having a real issue with what they call low-speed pre-ignition, which is a lower speed pre-ignition issue, which we all know pre-ignition is not good at any speed, but it's low speed and it's really detrimental to the engine's durability, okay? And they're starting to find out that it's coming from the oil vapors that are coming back, being pushed back through by the turbocharged system on there, okay? It's being carried over. So it's very important that you choose the proper oil that adheres to this API SN Plus spec, so you can potentially save your engine from self-destruction on there. Now the oil that I use is either the Pennzoil Platinum or Ultra Platinum like you see here, 5W30, and that's the other thing. No matter what year you have, I know the 2010 Taurus Show called for 5W20. From then on they used Ford called for 5W30. But no matter what model year you have and no matter what the spec was, you want to use 5W30 SN Plus oil, okay? Semi-synthetic or full synthetic. And then the engine will be good to go. The reason being is there's a lot of deposits with turbocharged engines, direct injection engines, and there's a lot of oil carryover through the system on there. That's why you need the SN Plus spec. And then there's also the bearings inside the turbocharger. They get red hot inside of there. You need an oil that will not break down and what they call coke inside of there, okay? You want an oil that can withstand that, so you want a good quality oil. Enough about that. Let's go ahead and get to it. All right, so first things first, we want to make sure the engine oil is hot. Very, very important, so it flows out of there nice and fast, and we get a good exchange when we're changing oil on this engine. So what you want to do is go for a test drive, make sure the engine's nice and hot, come back, park it on a nice level surface, set the parking brake, turn the engine off, and we can go ahead and open the hood. We'll go ahead and pull the oil fill cap off of here, clean it off, put it to the side, and the same thing with the oil dipstick right here, the yellow handle dipstick. This will ensure there's plenty of ventilation at the top of the engine so that oil can flow out of there nice and free. A real important tip, you want to make sure you get the keys out of your pocket while you're underneath the vehicle changing the oil. You don't want to roll over on the key fob and then remote start the engine while you're draining the oil out. That'd be really, really bad. Don't rely on the hood switch disabling the remote start. A lot of aftermarket systems don't even install those, so get them out of your pocket now. All right, let's go underneath and start draining the oil out. Underneath the vehicle here, there's a couple of different configurations that Ford uses. The early vehicles had this big underbody shield here with a bunch of turn lock fasteners, kind of like this one right here. And you could just turn them to the left and all 4 points, and they would just kind of drop out of there. Whereas the newer models just have this air duct right here to get air back to the PTU and all that. So Same thing on here. You just kind of turn lock them, hold them up, and let it fall on your head. And then the whole thing will come down and out of the way. Now in the F-150, it's going to be a little bit different. There's going to be a big piece of rubber going all the way across there. And then right in this area on the driver's side, there's going to be a bunch of white turn lock fasteners. You want to turn them 90 degrees to the left, and then that whole piece will kind of droop down and out of the way, and that'll give you room to get up in there and get to the oil filter. Whereas the other models, the transversely mounted front wheel drive models like you see here, the oil filter's right here next to the cat on the front side of the pan, which makes it very, very easy. Now in this newest models like this one right here, 2018, there's a O2 sensor wiring goes right across. It's just going to drip all over it and get inside of it. So I like to disconnect it and get it out of the way. You just got to remember to reconnect it on there. Watch out, it's going to be hot right here. The cat's going to be hot. So the first thing we're going to do is we can start loosening the oil filter on here. Get it loosened. Freaking He-Man put this thing on. All right. So let's get loosened on there. And you're going to let it start dripping out like that. Let it go for a while. Look at that oil, it's absolutely black and only has 3,500 miles on it. That's real common though with these Ecoboost engines. There's real high pressure in the cylinders, so there's a lot of blow by and a lot of carbon. So, and then plus the higher temperatures they're running, it's gonna break down real quick and get dirty real quick in general. So at this point, you can go ahead and just use a rag on here, a paper towel or whatever. Remember, it's gonna be really hot. And we can go ahead and just kind of spin it off here. You'll be able to tell when it's ready to pop like that. Go ahead, get your hand out of the way, and just let it drip the rest of the way out. All right, now once the oil filter housing has had time to drain out, what you want to do is inspect the sealing surface on here to make sure there's no nicks, cuts, or gouges in there. And more importantly, make sure the gasket from the old oil filter is not still stuck on there. It happens more often than you think. So make sure it's clean, good to go, bare metal like that. And then we can go ahead and use a paper towel and just kind of clean the surface on there and inspect it and get it ready for our new oil filter. Now your new oil filter, you just want to put a little bit of oil on the seal, the new gasket, and that'll help lubricate it. And then you just want to spin it on here by hand, kind of find the angle, and it'll just kind of drop into place like you see there, and then you just spin it all the way up. Now the real torque spec on here is something really low. What you want to do is just tighten it by hand. Do not use a wrench. So you'll feel it start to get really tight, and you can just give a little bit more, and that's it. That's all it needs. It'll hold. It's not going to back off on you. I like to clean the filter, and any place we spilled, it will happen. Trust me. And then if you have a model like I do, that's newer, you want to go ahead and reconnect your oxygen sensor until it clicks. Moving on, let's go ahead and drain the oil from the oil pan next. Now you're probably wondering why I changed the filter first. Well, there's a couple of reasons. The first reason being I like to get everything over here taken care of, back together, tightened, cleaned up, good to go, so I can just concentrate over here on the oil pan. And the other reason being is once you pull the oil filter off of there, you break the vacuum within the oil filter adapter, which allows oil to flow out this way and potentially, if it's high enough, back into the crankcase. We drain it both ways. The other reason being is I like to know this is good to go and done, so I can just concentrate in the oil pan, okay, and know that I can let it drain as long as possible without rushing to cap it off just because I have to go back and change the oil filter yet. Everything else is done. We can just concentrate on this and allow for an extended drain on the oil pan. So let's go ahead and start draining it out. It's gonna be a 15 mil on there. If it's not a 15 mil, so for some odd, weird reason, it's gonna be a 16, but I would say 99% of the time, it's gonna be a 15 mil. So remember, these will come out pretty easy because of the cast pan, but remember, it's gonna be hot and it's gonna flow out really fast because it's thin and hot. There we go. So again, with everything else taken care of, we can let this thing drain for a good long while and get a good exchange on here. Black Gold Texas tea. That it is. As you can see, you know, this size drain port on there, and oil, the volume that's in there, it's gonna take a little while to drain out. So give it time and let it drain. Now, once there's a thin stream or inconsistent drip like you see here coming out, you're good to go. You drain enough oil out of there, and we can go ahead and put the drain plug back in. Make sure you clean it up. I like to clean sealing surface real quick, and then make sure you spin it back in by hand. This is super, super important. It's way too easy to crack these cast pans on here. Put it back in, and then just use your wrench, and you just need to snug it up. Right about there. Just so it's snug, do not over torque it. So at this point, everything's good to go underneath here. With the oil change, you can go ahead and start putting your underbody shields back up, or your clips back in for the F-150, or the air duct, like I see on this one, back on. What I'll do is I'll show you how I install them on here, and the underbody shields are the same exact way. What you're gonna do is you're just gonna line up these little screw clips right here, little turn lock fasteners, and you just kind of turn them in by hand. They're meant to go in by hand. Get another one lined up, turn it in by hand, it'll just stop. And same with that one. Recheck them so it doesn't fly off going on the road, and you're good to go. You can go ahead and lower the vehicle back down, we can start filling back up. All right, now it's time for the easiest part. Remember, 6 quarts or so of the SN Plus 5W30. I'm using Ultra Platinum, and I'll link to the proper oil and all that good stuff down below. So go ahead, we'll start dumping into there. Now the filter, or the funnel you want to use, is a nice tall one like this right here. You can see how it gives you access to pour it properly without getting deep down in there and spilling it. So let's go ahead and fill it up with 6 full quarts, and then we can put the oil cap back on and start it up and recheck it, and we'll just adjust as necessary from there. All right, looks good, and we'll finish it off. All right, now once you have all 6 quarts in there, grab your funnel here, put a rag underneath it so you don't drip all over. Make sure you put your cap back on so it's not squirting everywhere. And we are good to go. We can go ahead and start it up and let it idle. Now, once you start it up, you want to let it run for 5-10 seconds at idle, and then you can go ahead and shut it down, come back over here, pull the cap, and we'll get a reading. Let's see where we're at. Make sure you stick it in there all the way so we get accurate reading. And there you go. Right there at the top of the hatch marks on there with 6 quarts. So we'll go ahead and put that back in. Don't forget it. If you do, it's going to leave a huge mess. Same thing with the cap. Make sure you wipe it up right here. Go ahead and put it back on. All right. All right, so that's the whole procedure right there. As you saw, it was pretty simple. 6 quarts, sure enough, did it. You want to change the oil in these engines every 5,000 miles when you're using a full synthetic like that. Don't go past 5,000 miles. Think about it. This oil is used in an extreme way with this engine, and you want to make sure it's changed out, because every little component on here, from the base block to the turbos and everything else, are very, very expensive. So you want to avoid that by maintaining. It's the lifeblood of the engine. That's all for now. I'll see you guys next time.